So the next track I'm going to go over is this Verse Vox Soft. So I have an additional track being played underneath his main vocals, and I had him just sing it softer to add kind of another dimension to the verse. So on this one I have the Pro Q2, and I'm not doing much on this. I rolled off to about 138, so a little higher than the original vocal track. So I took more low end out of this track so it didn't get in the way of the main vocal line. And then additionally, I took some low end out at about 160. So I'll just show you before and after with this plugin on it.
Standing hurt but strong, you're dragging me along, my patience wearing thin, and I won't wait at all.
So it's just taking out some low end. Like I said, we want the low end of the original track coming through. We don't want to add additional low end with this track. I then added the SSL channel strip, and what I'm doing with this is trying to differentiate this track from the main vocal line even more. So I tend to make my background vocals or my backup vocals brighter than the original or main line. So what I did here is I added a shelf at 10K, which is the very high end of his voice, and I boosted by about 4 dB. Also, I took out some around 2K, so a dip out of about 1.5. And what this is dipping out some of the articulation or the consonant sound in his voice. So I didn't want that getting in the way of the main vocal line either. So I'm going to play you before and after with this plugin.
Standing hurt but strong, you're dragging me along. Standing hurt but strong, standing hurt but strong.
Hear how there's just a little bit more high end, and that's what I want in this track. I don't want too much of the low end. I just want some emphasis at the higher end of the frequency spectrum. Also, I think I was compressing with this plugin too. Let me see.
Standing hurt but strong.
Yeah, so we're getting a little bit of the compression from the SSL. So I have a fast attack and a medium release, and I'm compressing by 3:1, and I'm just getting about 3 dBs of gain reduction.
Standing hurt but strong, you're dragging me along.
So the bulk of the compression is being done by the next plugin, which is the CLA 76. And on this I have a slower release than I did on the original track, and I have a faster attack. So this is gonna make it so this vocal doesn't come to the forefront as much as the main vocal line. So let's see how much reduction we're getting here.
Standing hurt but strong, you're dragging me along, my patience wearing thin, and I won't wait at all.
So not much at all, about gets up to about 3 dB gain reduction. This track didn't need as much compression because he was singing softer, not as many words were sticking out like the other one. So next I just have the de-esser with the same settings as they were on the first track.
Standing hurt but strong, you're dragging me along.
And then I added the multi-band compressor, and again I don't think we're using this band, we're not, so I can take this out. And again, we're just kind of compressing and keeping his the low end of his voice in check.
Standing hurt but strong, you're dragging me along. And I won't wait it.
And it looks like we're getting more gain reduction on this track than the main vocal track because, again, I didn't want a lot of the low end coming through from this track. Next we got the L2, which again is just kind of clamping down on the loudest notes he's saying. So on this track it's not hitting as much.
My patience wearing thin, and I won't wait at all.
And then lastly, we just have one effect send, and that's just our vocal reverb. So there's not that much reverb on this, not as much as the main track.
Standing hurt but strong, you're dragging me along.
So I got a little less reverb sent to it than I do to my main vocal track. But I don't like to put a ton of reverb on my backup tracks. You also notice that this track is panned a little bit to the right, just to give it some separation from the main vocal line. So I'll let you hear what these tracks sound like together, and I'll bring this one in and out.
Standing hurt but strong, you're dragging me along. My patience wearing thin, and I won't wait at all.
So it just adds some nice doubling, makes his voice sound a little larger than it actually is. Alright, so I'm going to move to this pre-chorus vocal part, and I got something a little interesting going on here. So the first track, I have almost the same settings as the main vocal part for the verse, and the only thing different really is that I'm only using the reverb and delay send. So that's this one, and then the other one I have this double, and this is almost the same settings as the quiet part from the verse. So I pan these both, one a little to the left, one to the right, and then I'm just going to play these together.
And we're tangled up in the lies of our story. I'm alive, I'm alive, I'm alive.
Alright, so that sounds pretty good. But what I wanted to do was kind of separate this part from the rest of the song, add some sort of effect. So I had him sing it again, and I put a weird, almost telephone effect on his voice, and I'll show you how I did that. So first, I'm just going to show you what this track sounds like.
And we're tangled up in the lies of our story. I'm alive, I'm alive, I'm alive.
Sounds pretty cool, right? So first thing I did was I'm going to bypass all my sends and start at the top here with the plugin. So first thing, I took out everything up to about 200 hertz, and then I added some brightness with an 8K shelf, boosting by about 5 dB, and then lastly I added a low shelf at 200, so we're rolling off more of the lows under that 200 frequency, and I'll just show you before and after.
And we're tangled up in the lies of our story. I'm alive, I'm alive, I'm alive.
So it's starting to sound a little bit more affected. I also did all my compression for this track on this plugin, and you can see we're compressing it by a lot, so about 10 dBs of gain reduction.
And we're tangled up in the lies of our story.
So we got it all cleaned up with this plugin. Now we wanted to add the effect. So I added the virtual mix rack and just added another EQ here. And for this telephone effect, you want to emphasize the mid-range of the singer's voice. So in order to do that, I boosted at 1.5K. I boosted by let's see here, about 9 dB, and then at 2.5 I did with a narrow Q, I boosted by about 5 dB there, and then at 250 I rolled a little more off, and this was just kind of, I have this preset set, and then I just kind of make adjustments, taking out low end or adding the mid range when needed. So I'll show you before and after this plugin.
And we're tangled up in the lies of our story. I'm alive, I'm alive, I'm alive.
So lastly, I just added the reverb and the delay send, and this is what it sounds like.
And we're tangled up in the lies of our story.
And then I just put this track right up the middle, a little lower in volume than the other ones, but I think all three of these sound really good together. They complement each other really well.
And we're tangled up in the lies of our story. I'm alive, I'm alive, I'm alive.
And lastly, I'll just show you what it sounds like in the mix.
And we're tangled up in the lies of our story. I'm alive, I'm alive, I'm alive.
Guys, thanks for watching. Make sure to download your free Ultimate Home Studio Mix Guide. I made this for you guys so you could start getting your mixes sounding better. There's a lot of great information in there, and be sure to reach out if you have any questions or if you need any help with your mixes. Thanks.